This is episode 277 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm your host, Gio Morales, and today I'm joined by Marcel Snapshotty Manzano. Will, it's Andor season, Hagewood.
I'm more excited for K2SO, but we'll say the whole show overall.
And Ryan, he's standing, he crawling, he balling. Stanazuski.
Yep, so my son has we've been throwing his little toy ball back and forth, so he officially could play catch before he could crawl. And then he started to put his arms up pick me up, but instead of pick me up, he pushed himself up to standing. And then just today, he did his first crawl.
Oh, snap. It's time to
9 months and a few days old.
It's time to tie everything down. You know that, right? Make sure.
We're getting to that point, yes.
Close the cupboards. Screw it all
where the gates can go.
Yep. It's time. All right. As for announcements and news, by now, most patrons should have received their latest shipment of swag, and if not, soon watch your emails for tracking. They should have been sent to you already. Also, I did receive a few of your emails being like, "Hey, that my address changed. Sorry, no worries. We'll get you taken care of." Look for a reply from me this week. Also, this week I'll be posting on Patreon and Discord about some changes coming to the Patreon shipping structure. I've been running some numbers. And with shipping prices going up significantly, I will tell you, for most patrons, it was costing $3 to ship things. Now it's gone to about $5.50, so it's almost double to ship things. And because of that, just kind of taking a look at that, and how do I get you guys the same amount of swag while trying to minimize the cost? Because essentially, if I continue what we were doing before, it doesn't really work, unfortunately. But we're figuring it out. Look for a post there. Additionally, we did talk about the Save TTT initiative over the weekend. Had a great meeting with the current owner of TTT, Dennis, and good things are coming. And just looking forward to seeing what happens there. So we have a bunch of stuff to cover today. We're going to start with a story that is technically a week old, but we wanted to make sure that we covered it before we got too far away. So we're going to be cutting to a guest, a team member of Team Canada, Brendan Osman Damon. How's it going, Brendan?
It's going pretty well. Still got a little bit of a high off of winning the event, to be honest.
Woo, woo, woo. The Western Hemisphere won. That's why I'm excited. All right. So, for anybody who maybe hasn't been closely following the XTC, Team Canada was the winner after going through the initial group stage into the final stage, and then ended up on top. So, can you remind the people what was the final scores, just so that to kind of have a reference there?
Final score of the final event: Team Canada was on top, 8-1. 2 whole team wins above England and Germany, who were both 6-3. Then we had Italy and the USA at 5 wins, Ireland at 4 wins, Philippines, Australia, and Czech Republic at 3 wins, and Spain at 2 wins. All
right. So, throughout the entire XTC, Team Canada was always very strong. It was. You guys were a team to watch. No matter how much we trolled you guys, we know that you guys are good, right? And that's why we pick on you. It's for that reason. But all joking aside, you guys do have an air of confidence around your play. You're like, we're good and we know it, and that's good. That's good. Now, what do you think your team did better than other teams, even if it was just slightly better, to maybe pull you guys ahead?
Well, for starters, I don't think we got mucked down in the trash talk ahead of time. We made sure our play spoke for ourselves, and then we got out of it. I think a huge thing was we did coordinate lists to make sure that we had the field covered. Mm-hmm. Especially Rebel Alpha was the big boogeyman, and we had 2 solid counters to that the entire way through. The other thing is, I think from hearing a lot of the chat in our group, a lot of the time I think we played 2.5 better than a lot of the teams did. A lot of the times, like, we were losing like just ships, but we were staying alive on the objective points. Or as well, when we were up, we managed to use the objectives as timers so that we could close out the wins.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of leads into a kind of my next question. So, how did you guys go about coordinating lists? Because I know some people, they know that XTC is a team tournament, but this is a part of the game that you can't just take 5 people and say, "I want to play this list to win a championship."
Yeah, so for starters, I think due credit has to be made to Cam Murray, our captain. So he selected 5 players with very varied play styles. And so from there, it was sort of a mix of, hey, you're good with the first order stuff. How about you take Crispy's list, which we knew was going to be fire before he won the events for the group stages. We also knew Vader and TIE Fighters was going to be good, so we assigned that. And then a bit of it was just coming up with things on our own after that. Then for the final event, we did tinker a bit. My list, actually, the funny thing was we took out 2 Y-Wings, and then we replaced them with Commander Poe and BB-8 because that fit, and that was just like at dinner at Gen Con, like a block away. Well, yeah, you got to write it down quickly before you forget.
Chat says you're muted.
I'll say that one more time. Which team would you say gave you the most trouble?
So the USA is the only team that ever beat us throughout the entire event, including the group stages. That said, we ended at 5-5, so maybe we'll call it a draw.
There you go.
Yeah. That was like a real battle of tired people, though. That game in the finals happened at 2 a.m.
That's true. Now, one of the things that I want to bounce back to what you said, Brendan, was that talking about objectives, playing objectives. This is a repeating theme that is happening where players are finding success when they understand how the objectives need to be played with their list. Can you maybe get into a little bit on how you guys maybe analyzed or approached different objectives?
So I think it's no secret that some lists are better at objectives than others. For example, Will's Double Destiny list, it's a lot worse at chance engagement. So interestingly with the XTC is we did know round by round which objectives or scenarios we'd be playing. So we were able to factor that into which matchups we wanted. And it was big, but we also knew because it was 9-round slog, we couldn't take any single list that was going to be bad at a single scenario, because there's a lot of slim 3-2 team wins. In a Swiss event, like if there's 6 rounds, you can maybe drop your 1 round to salvage if you want. But like here, there were a lot slimmer margins, and making sure we didn't have a list bad at a single scenario was very important.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Will, Marcel, or Ryan, any questions you'd like to throw at Brendan?
Brendan, were you involved in the pairing process at all?
No, I wasn't really. The truth is, Cam's the real genius behind that, and so we didn't really muck with it. I did give him some brief practice, but you got better practice from other teammates than me.
Sure. So what was his approach asking players for feedback? Did you do like a ranking system of the matchups, or what was your approach as a player?
So we've got the 5x5 matrix on a Google spreadsheet, and we would put in just our win probabilities. So most frequently it's 60-40, but there's 50-50s, and very occasionally it's 70-30.
Okay.
But like, there's also traps in the pairing process that you don't want to get sucked into. So what happened, I think at least 6 rounds, probably even more, was people were holding back the Rebel Alpha. They don't want to go into Crispy's list without like getting chaffed.
Right.
So then we would hold our 2 counters back, which were my resistance list with all the Ferrosphere and Crispy's list. And so then at the end, it would just wind up being paired into one of those 2 anyways. I took Rebel Alpha 6 out of the 9 matches.
All right.
So one of the controversial or sensitive topics for us or around us was team selection process. Well, how'd that look like for you guys?
So we didn't have too much time on it. What Cam did is he had a Google form, and basically what it came down to was it was an X-Wing resume. What factions do you like playing? What are your play styles like? So I would put down that mostly what I was playing at the time was Separatist or First Order Swarms. And then also just like, hey, what are some of the large events you've done well at? So I was able to include the 2 final Galaxies events, and as well as Sith Taker event that I won of 112 people. And then Cam did the work from there, and he just made sure that everyone balanced off of each other, and we had a good mix.
You know, is that something that's going to is that what you guys are planning on doing next year as well? Just
have to ask Cam. I don't know what the plan is. Maybe we try for the same team again since it worked the first time, but maybe.
Hey, careful with that one, all I say, because you're going to get some stones thrown your way if you do. I'm not saying it's a wrong call. Huh?
You didn't win last year.
No, we were second place, and you did well enough. But thanks for reminding me. Like I did not know that until you mentioned it. Yeah, well, I'm glad you said it.
I mean, they're the champions, Marcel. They gotta rib us at least a little bit, right? Right. All right. Well, Brendan, you know, going into next year, being the champion always feels good, right? You're on top. Yeah. But the biggest kind of error that can be made is not thinking ahead to the next time, right? So what are some things, even though you guys did well, that you think your team needs to work on or needs to avoid doing to maybe have some... I'm sure you know of moments in this tournament where things could have not gone your team's way. What were those, and how do you avoid that next time?
I think an important step is keeping the TTS muscles fresh. They On the Table and TTS are still very different games, and I, like many other people, think that On the Table is more fun. But I think just staying fresh with our TTS skills is going to be very important, and just keeping up other skills, like keeping up the swarm play skills. The meta is going to change in a year, hopefully. Hopefully there's some sort of points updates and we come up with new lists, but keeping up the skills is going to be very important.
Fantastic. Ryan, was there anything you wanted to add?
Did you guys have any fun celebration type thing you did, whether it was online, you know, or when you guys met up for Gen Con or anything else?
So there's 3 of us that are in Ontario and 1 person out in Quebec and 1 person out in Alberta. So we haven't been able to physically meet up yet. One fun thing we did is this started in the group stages. Every time one of us would win, Cam would post a GIF of The Rock like a GIF of The Rock saying "Let's go." I blanked on what he was saying for a second for some reason. But so then we kept doing that in the finals, and so what was fun was because games would all end at the same time when round was called, we'd get like 4 GIFs of The Rock in a row, just celebrating all 4 wins. It'll be fun to meet up with the rest of the team. There is a Worlds Qualifier happening in Montreal in October, so meeting up for that is going to be super fun.
I'll have fun on that, and good luck to it.
Thank you.
That's right. Gotta go win that that trip, right? Come down to our town.
I suspect I'll make the trip regardless, but having the buy will be fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like, ooh, a piece of candy. Well,
having that day of rest, like in 2019 Worlds, is like absolutely worth it.
Absolutely. Well, Brendan, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I want to say thank you so much. But before I let you go, any shout outs you want to give? I'm giving you the stage here for a couple minutes or a minute or two.
So I want to shout out PFO for organizing the entire thing. Once again, Captain Cam Murray. One thing that I think needs to be emphasized is the XTC is incredibly competitive. Like, most sets end up 3-2, and like even the teams that didn't do as well didn't do badly. So credit to everyone else who played in it. And lastly, I'm super proud of our team for winning. And I think, not to toot our own horn too much, but 2 whole set wins, like we had a dominant performance, and I'm super proud of the team for that.
Awesome, man. I mean, that's you guys are the team to beat. I know. I'm watching you. I'm watching Team Canada. You and your compatriots are always good people, and it's always fun to hang out with you. So I can't be too mad that Team Canada won, because I do like you as people. But on the field of battle, we got to pick 2 sides. Anyway, Brendan, thank you for your time, my friend. And I'll see you at the next thing, whatever that is.
Next thing.
All right. All you have to do is close the window, and you'll be done.
Perfect. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. We got to win next year, guys. Come on.
You got an offer from Crispy last week.
Oh, he.
I don't know. He's gonna fizzle out, I'm sure. That guy's a one hit
wonder. Five hit wonder.
He's a 5-hit wonder.
It's a 1-year wonder, okay?
Yeah.
No, he's it'll be interesting. It'll be fun next year. Hopefully the excitement is back up. And hopefully Canada being so close and being so vocal about their dominance kind of stirs the national pride here in the U.S. to kind of get the existing players that will want to remain to kind of up our game, and get players who are not involved to want to get involved. Similar to, I think part of the reason why we did so good last year was because of the level of engagement that we had between the team, and also the level of engagement that we had amongst the community, where we had people from, that weren't on the team contributing to help practice matchups during the Swiss rounds. I know that like Dutch, for example, Colbert was helping Cameron, like Cam, practice matchups and stuff like that. So I think it'll be interesting next year. Hoping that the excitement around X-Wing and XCC continues to grow, that we'll be able to, kind of freshen up the team a little bit. Not that any of our players that we had are not top quality players; they are. But just like anything, there's peaks and valleys, right? Like there's sometimes that you get players that are new and that are rolling on a high, and also you get players that are just much more engaged at that particular moment than other times. And XTC, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you have to be engaged and you have to be excited about it, and you have to be willing to put in a ton of hours. Not just looking at your list and looking at your teammates' list, but also a ton of hours looking at all of the opponents' lists and helping determine how your list matches up against each of their lists and each of the scenarios, and then helping your teammates figure out which of their lists. So it's not, it's not just like a regular tournament where you can say, well, I can sit down and play for 9 games in a weekend, which is a ton. I can sit down and play 9 games in a weekend after spending 3 weeks, maybe around 6 hours a week to 8 hours a week, solely dedicated on helping figure out which matchups work, helping my teammates practice, helping my teammates optimize their lists, and willing to accept somebody kind of vetoing you and saying, we understand what you want to fly, but this is what's better for the team. So you're just going to have to eat one and play this and play against that. So it's not, so just if you're going to, and we'll get into this again next year when we get into it, but if you're going to put your name in the hat for that, just understand that, you have to check your ego at the door within the team. Like, keep your ego and smack talk the other teams all you want. But and as far as saying, like, hey, this is my list and this is what I'm best at, because it's a group effort in coming up with the list and coming up with the factions and coming up with the matchups. So just being able to say, like, hey, this is what I'm best at, but what you're best at may not be what the team needs. The team might need a different, you might be a great 3-point shooter, but the team might need a defensive specialist, so just be mindful that if you're going to put your name in the hat next year, we welcome it, but be prepared to invest a lot more time than you ever have for any tournament.
There it is. I mean, that's what, if a team, right, is serious about winning championships, it's funny, this sounds like sports. If we're serious about winning championships, you got to make hard choices, right? And you got to put in the work. So it'll be good. I'm excited to see how this all rolls out, and hopefully next year, screaming USA at the end, okay? All righty. So now you might be wondering, why was the Team Canada interview so short? That's because there were 3 world qualifiers this weekend.
And also, just real quick,
yes.
To go back on the Canada, sorry.
Yeah.
But just if you want to get more Team Canada, Brandon and Cam talking about the choices they made, specific matchups, specific pairings, Fly Better last week did a really good, like, hour-long conversation with Brendan, and I know it was a Cam, one of them, with Team Canada on the strategies, the tactics, the specific decisions on which factions were flown and which factions were avoided. Listen to Fly Better podcast from last week, and then also Ali did the spicy roundup that they do. So I believe theirs is not a podcast. Theirs is only on Twitch, and then I think it gets uploaded to YouTube. So look for the spicy roundup from Ali, and they also did like a 45-minute to an hour conversation with Team Canada on choices made. So there's plenty of content out there that goes into deep detail about what Canada did to be on top.
Awesome. Yes, the Sith Takers did one as well. So we had 3 world qualifiers this weekend. Now we have kind of the one where we have the most information all at once is the Nova Open. We did stream it this weekend, so we have all of that ready to go. What we have bits and pieces of are the Italian World Qualifier, which we were able to find a list fortress entry for, so that's great. But there was also one that happened in the Netherlands, and we only know because of a Facebook post who the winner and the runner-up is. So if you were at that Netherlands event, and you're like, why didn't you do more players? It's not because we're disrespecting anybody. It's because we literally don't have the information. I just want to put it out there.
TO didn't open up the tabletop TO.
The ladder. That's
So
what we don't know.
Yeah, we know Steve Bolton posted something on Facebook, and we saw it, and we're like, oh, there was a Dutch Nationals.
Yeah. So I figure we start from that tournament. We'll go the Dutch World Qualifier. We'll hit Italian, and then we'll hit the Nova Open. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll get this adjusted a little bit. Hello, random yoga ad. We'll get this in here first. So the winner was Alex Bolton. Am I right about that, Marcel?
No, it was
No.
Fawn.
I mean, sorry, the runner-up. I meant, sorry. I used the wrong word. All right, so our runner-up was Alex Bolton. Marcel, go ahead and read us that list.
All right, I'm going to do my best because this is small text. There you go. Thank you. So it's Flying the Galactic Empire with Wampa, Jingo, and only one Jingo. That's interesting. Okay, so Wampa with Discipline, Jingo with Contraband Cybernetics. You have Gideon Hask with Disciplined, Crackshot, and Precision Ion Engines. I didn't Versio with Disciplined, Crackshot, and Precision Ion Engines. Howl Runner, Mauler Mythal, and Scourge, all three with Crackshot. Swarm Taxes on Howl Runner, I'm assuming to get Wampa up to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 ship TIE Fighter Swarm. And I think we saw this do well in, I'm trying to think correct, in one of the recent tournaments earlier this year, like one of the first 2.5 tournaments that was in person.
UK qualifier, I believe.
Yeah, something. Yeah, you're right. So again, a list that did well early in 2.5, and it's still active and doing well now.
So what the Precision Ion Engines? Can you guys remind me what that is?
That's the one that if you do a 3K turn, you can change that to a 3 sloop instead in either direction. So you don't have to guess. So you just set the 3K turn, and then if it's not going to work out one way, you go the other way.
Yeah, so specifically, it's a 2-charge card. So you'll use it twice in an entire game. It only can be equipped on ties with 3 agility. Before you execute a speed 1 to 3 K turn, you may spend a charge and do the sloop. And because that's at initiative, you get to choose. So the higher initiative you are, the better information you have for that.
Okay, so they chose, Alex chose to then put it on Aiden and Gideon. I'm guessing maybe were those kind of, and then there's Howl Runner there as well. I just find it, I'm just curious, is it just a loadout issue why Aiden and Gideon got it and not other
It might
TIE
be
fighters?
points available, you know.
Yeah,
And
once you
the
take
fact that those, you know, those
Yeah, it
are
looks
ships that have crack shot and discipline, so more likely to get that bullseye on that 3K turn that you dial in because it could be a sloop.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is it does help you line up these crack shots and stay. What do I want to say? Close to each other, close to Howl Runner as well. But you might need that extra maneuverability to not block your own swarm when everyone's turning around.
Very true, very true. All right. So congratulations to runner-up Alex Bolton. Let's go ahead and roll it up here to our winner, who was Fawn Longalon. Go ahead and take it, Will.
Okay, so Fawn flying the Galactic Republic. This is Anakin 7B with Crackshot R4P17, which I believe is the pattern analyzer droid, doing actions with red maneuvers. Then shield upgrade, get him up to 7 total health. Obi-Wan in the regular 7, Delta 7. It's the CLT with elusive and R2, D2. Contrail, Crackshot, R7A7, delayed fuses, Besh, and proton bombs. Then Hound, C-3PO, Corky Kreese, Agile Gunner, 7 Fleet Gunner, and Synchronized Console. So very, very similar to what we saw at Gen Con. What a lot of people have been grabbing as this kind of flat +3 aces build. This one favoring the C-3PO, or Agile Gunner, and Corky Kreese on the lat, so you can get double calculate, and then Corky Kreese can throw those calculates to someone who defends in front of them. You get that Agile Gunner, so you can spin your arc, make sure that fire control, or was it convergence, fire convergence, and 7 Fleet Gunner are online the whole time you are in the fight. Then this one, though, takes the different droid and shield. What's Marcel? What was normally on Anakin?
Yeah, he got rid
Chopper.
He got rid of Chopper and spare parts.
Yes, that's
in order
right.
to get R4 P17 and shield upgrade. So shield upgrade and R4 P17 are a straight swap, 8 for 8.
Okay, sure.
And then R4 and spare parts are again a swap, which, I mean, if you think about it, your Chopper probably, the 2 evades nets you 1 shield in most situations.
Sure.
Because
You lose out on the fun jamming, though.
You do lose out on the fun jamming, but you gain the red maneuver action, which can be clutch.
Right, because then you could still utilize Anakin's ability and fire control, or not fine-tune controls, and still end up with 3 actions when you do a red maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
As long as the whole Anakin clearance stress is online. Actually, that makes me thank you. After you fully execute a red maneuver, yeah. So this is another after you fully execute, which goes in the queue with all that stuff as well. So read up on your Anakin and your fully execute.
May judge it differently.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, so you might, so there's a million ways to do this as of now, because it's complicated.
Right. So the main
Anakin
question
being the only different thing in the entire list, actually looking at it. And it's so you're doubling down even further on the red maneuver stuff, which Anakin's really good at. And taking the shield because you don't have Chopper. The one downside to this variation, not to say that there's only downsides, there's still upsides, but the potential downside is that without spare parts canisters, an X1 Vader or any I-6 Torp carrier can just look at Anakin and just say, I'm going to be able to take a lock on you, and you can't spare parts it away, or you don't have ways around it. Now, Anakin's obviously very maneuverable and can still use his maneuvers and repositions to get out of those situations, but a lot of times that spare parts is its own deterrent, even if there are games, many games actually, where someone may never use it, but it's there as a, you can look at me, but if I move second, I'm either going to find a way out or I'm just going to pop spare parts. So.
I used it once on all 9 games of XDC, and it was more for the, I'm going to drop a cloud on you and give you the effects of the cloud and make you shoot me with obstructed. So it was more for that effect. But yeah, it's still a good I wouldn't say for I6 because I6 it's a dice roll on whether you roll first or second, but I would say a lot more for like the for the Lukes out there or the I5 and lower that want to set up a target lock on you because you're guaranteed that they're going to drop that on you. They're going to lock you before you move in action.
Yeah, and Malrus is a really good one as well. We see plenty of Malrus taking locks for missiles. And it's one of those things where it might be worth, if you're trying a list like this out and you're trying either something like Von Langeland's Anakin version or Duncan's Anakin version, actively ask your opponent after the games if they chose to, if their decision making was affected by spare parts. Because a lot of times you don't get to hear that, but you feel like, oh, I never use this. Is this even doing anything? It might be. You just have to ask your opponent. Because if it is doing something, your opponent's probably not going to trigger it for you to use it in the first place. It's a deterrent.
And we did see, I know at Nova Open and in these different tournament results, we are seeing people bring this list. I think after seeing Duncan Howard do so successful with it and showing that Republic had an answer to, like a very good answer to objectives in the current meta. It's showing up, but it does have it has a very high ceiling, but I believe it also has a very low floor if you don't know how to approach specific objectives.
There are a lot of triggers in this list to remember and talk to your TO about Anakin before anyway. So that's all that your responsibility before going to the event if you're going to run this list.
Yeah, and
it's mostly trigger stuff though.
Yeah, and Fawn is a very experienced, very calculated player that is accustomed to flying things that have a lot of charges and a lot of shenanigans going on. So yeah, it's not somebody picks it up and wins just because it's a good list. It's a good list, but you need to rep it and you need to understand why it's good, not if it's good, but why.
All right. Well, we're going to move on here to the Italian World Qualifier. It happened in Rome, Italy. Here is our bracket. We know our winner was Daniel Curto, so we're going to start there. We actually have two different, like their day 1A and day 1B for tabletop TO. So let's go ahead and take a look there. Will, we'll start with you.
All right, we're starting with Daniel here.
That was the Rome champion.
The champion. All right, Daniel pulls it off here with Rebels. Underrated faction? Overrated faction? Hard to say. I mean, they're in quite the change of pace, we'll say. But anyways, the list, we have Wedge Antilles with Elusive, Predator, Proton Torpedoes, and R4 Astromech to clear those stresses on hard to maneuvers. Pretty standard loadout there. We got Finn Rao in the Sheathpede, rocking Swarm Tactics, and Tristan Wren plus R4. As well, Finn Rao stresses himself. Tristan Wren can add crits to munitions, which we do see here also on Dutch Vander, rocking the belly run, of course, dorsal turret, plasma torpedoes, and the R3 Astromech. So Dutch takes 2 locks, and he can give a lock to a friendly, as long as it's one of the 2 ships Dutch had locked there. Combined with Finn Rao's coordinating and I6, basically a double coordinate, get out 2 locks onto people. We have Aaron Kraken with Elusive and Plasma Torpedoes, and then Arvel in the A-Wing with Elusive and Crack Shots. So, taking your traditional Wedge, Luke, Finn Rao, and then something, either Dutch or Colby, if you're going that Finn Rao route. And this time splits Luke into Aaron Kraken and Arvel. But it does give you a lot of play here. That Swarm Tactics, being able to bring Dutch up above Wedge when he's shooting those plasma torps. Same way with Aaron Kraken. you can bring Aaron Kraken up to 6, shoot, and then give out an action as well to one of the ships. Same thing. You're trying to get Dutch to target lock. You're trying to get Aaron Kraken the lock and Wedge to lock all in the same round. And then you just blast something all to heck. So this has then the same kind of fighting like Alpha Strike, but you're sneaking in Arvel as well in there. If you can kind of compare Aaron Kraken's Plasma Torp to a Luke Skywalker Proton there. And yeah, I mean, you get an extra ship that's better for objectives, right? So if you get alphaed yourself, you only down a fifth of your list instead of a fourth. And losing Luke early is painful when it does happen. So I can see the value of bringing Arvel as that fifth ship.
So this is 3 extra actions because Wedge moves takes first Dutch moves takes let's say a focus. Then because assuming that the higher initiative ships aren't there to be target locked yet, Dutch moves takes a focus. Aaron moves takes a focus. Wedge moves takes a target lock. Fen moves coordinates Dutch target lock, gives that target lock to Aaron, so Aaron now has target lock and focus. Aaron shoots, passes off an action to Wedge. Now Wedge has to focus target lock. So essentially Wedge, Dutch, and Aaron, all 3 end up target lock focus at it. 2 of them at initiative 6.
Exactly, right.
And then Fenrir is there to mute the at least one shot coming back at the formation.
Yeah, I mean, plus, like I said, I think that Arvel, getting a blocker in your alpha is super helpful. We've seen the TIE, you do like Ahsoka at 5 points and Ezra and the TIE Fighter to fill in the remaining 8 points, basically, after the 2 X-Wings, Wedge and Luke. And Ezra in that role was out there blocking and jamming, so you can get Arvel in this squad, so you don't get reduced firepower. It could be out there blocking as well. Plus, don't forget those extra actions, the coordinate and Aaron Kraken. You could give those to Arvel, have him boost into people as more of a defensive measure for himself.
Now was there an errata to Arvel with range 0 as well? Does he not take?
It's just a range 1 for him.
Yeah,
now.
he doesn't shoot range 0. He only shoots range 1.
Okay, so he can still modify his dice. He still gets that third one as well.
Exactly. Right. So he can spend his focus. He can spend crack shot, and he gets the extra attack dice. Then that's why I say it's more defensive in that nature, because if someone wants to shoot him back, they don't get any mods at all. But then again, like I said, a great blocker. It's not like reposition. Yeah, I think, probably the best 3-point ship, edging out Ezra TIE just ever so slightly there with those linked actions. Yeah, and the Rebels, of course.
Arvel is not a name that we've heard really at all in the last couple months, right? And I agree that it is good. Maybe it's just been having trouble finding its place in a list, and maybe this is the choice. Maybe Luke wasn't the right call the whole time, and instead you needed yourself 2 other ships instead.
Well,
I don't know.
So I think everyone was either did one of 2 things. In the beginning, a lot of people were keyed in on the Alpha Strike. That was a huge deal. Then Chaff came along, and then people found ways with either Chaff or outside of that to deal with the alphas, your jams, your FTCs, your Chaffs, or any other just TIE Whispers. Kylo became prevalent in the same list. So people just either A, dropped Rebels completely, or had to start looking around to see how to mitigate some of those action denying things or allowing things to take actions or locks necessary in different manners. We've seen it was Daniel Leone in the last GSP event doing stuff like the Aaron Kraken with a ship that has Hondo Naka in it. So a lot of in engagement actions. Aaron Kraken is probably an extremely solid piece for that right now for Rebels, and might be a good. I mean, if you're bringing Fen Rao, you probably should bring Aaron Kraken if you're trying to go the 5-ship list route. And maybe that's where Rebels might have a little more of a overall success versus always alling in on the alpha.
Yeah, because right now Rebels are on a bit of a struggle bus overall. Like they've been, obviously Daniel showed up and played, but a lot of the results point to Rebels on a decline. Let's just say, or they're trying to find their footing again.
Yeah, honestly, I think they looking for more ships, trying to get that at least 5, if not 6, in your Rebel list is what's going to help you. They don't have look at much. I think we all agree, very great. But like they don't have those like big 7-point pieces that you can really build around like Scum. What they do have is a lot of scrappy little ships though, which is kind of like on theme for them.
All right, so the runner-up of the Italian World Qualifier was Nicholas Durand. He, I was about to say he drove. He played. He played a TIE Swarm plus a couple friends here. So we had Iden Versio, Moff Gideon, Jingo Jingo Wampa, but then had 2 Reapers. Vizier in the Reaper with Palpatine, and Captain Faroff in the list with Ruthless, the Child, and Targeting Computer. So this actually, Marcel, I know we haven't quite got to know, but this reminds me a little bit of your list, like just a smidge. It has that taste.
Yeah, Moff is loaded differently, and then I opted for 2 different 4-pointers.
Yeah, it's just interesting that somebody else is on a very similar train of thought right here of trying to find those extra pieces to make a TIE Swarm have a little bit more utility. But anyway, I'll go ahead and break it down a little bit more. Iden had Elusive Ion Cannon, Moff Gideon, Cluster Missiles, Contraband Cybernetics, and Targeting Computer. Both ISB Jingoists had Contraband Cybernetics. Wampa had Elusive. Question, gentlemen. The Jingoists, I see people kind of rock back and forth between Contraband and the what's the self-blow-up one? Of course, I'm forgetting the name. Dead Man Switch.
Well, the problem is Dead Man Switch is great for Dead Man Switch is probably the right choice when you're flying something like Double Desi or Desi, Vader, Furrow and something, because
smaller ship counts.
Yeah,
in general.
smaller ship count because you're using them to go in, get range 1, collect objectives, kind of dare somebody to do it. Like, here you go, kill me. And if they don't, then you still get the range 1 ability. But the problem is, in a 7-ship loadout, in a 7-ship list, that Dead Man Switch is going to be more harm than good. You're basically just seismic charging your entire list when they die, because you're ultimately going to end up in a bubble somewhere.
I agree. All right, awesome. So let's go ahead. Let's keep it going here. We're gonna go through. We're gonna go through at least the top 4. Our next player who got eliminated during the top 4 was Giovanni Raviolo De Rosso. So let me go ahead and try to find him here in our double days. So it's not going to be here. Let's go ahead and find him there. There it is. Take it, Ryan.
We have a Galactic Republic list. I feel like every Galactic Republic list features Hound right now. That's good. It has Hound with the Kryze family, the Corky Kryze and Satine Kryze in 7th Fleet Gunner. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi with that elusive R2-D2 CLT. Mace Windu with heightened perception R4P17 CLT. Contrail with Crackshot R7A7 delayed fuses Besh Proton Bomb. And then Click with dedicated R3 Besh and Proton Bomb. This is actually an archetype I have been looking into a lot. I've gone down the Satine, Corky, Hound, Lat rabbit hole, and I've done anywhere from 6 ships to 5 ships. I'm not sure if I haven't tried Satine yet in a 4. I think with the 4 you lose out an agile gunner on the Lat, and I think that's a little detrimental when your aces, when you have less of them, need their shots. There's less arcs covered. But this variation brings the 2 best V-Wings in my opinion. Click locks are very underrated in my opinion. His effect can be very Kanan Hawk-esque. He'll still only do it once per round, versus Kanan, who can bring more force and potentially maul force and get it back each time he takes damage. But locking one of your friendly ships and just saying, hey, you're not going to get your range 1 bonus on them, or even say you're not going to get the range 3 bonus shooting for when my ship shoots you. So that's a very nice bonus. Some people take that one for granted sometimes. That contrail's kind of the pretty standardized one. What's up, Marcel?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not Kanan, it's Inquisitor. It's basically the Grand Inquisitor. It's turning 2 of your ships with the R3 into the Grand Inquisitor at least once a turn. So it's Grand Inquisitor is good for a reason, and this basically allows you to be a Grand
Inquisitor. His effect is
Inquisitor.
good by himself for sure, and like the click resource is just once per round. He's not spending a force like Grand Inquisitor would. That's part of his other modification effects. The things that click does not want to see, obviously, are enemy chaff clouds, and I found this one out myself because I looked at the puzzles like, wait, I don't want to do this. I have to be very careful about it. Garsax and Gunner can spend your own friendly locks against you because it's a red token.
Oh, no.
So be aware of that. Yeah, I saw a Manaroo across the table from me one time with Garsax, and when I was using click, and I was like, I think I need to be very careful with these click locks. And that's when, as long as click was safe in the round that I took locks on enemy ships, that's still also very valuable. You can tell the enemy ships lock them instead of your friendly ships, and just try and negate the range 1 bonuses they have. But we know this Obi-Wan's really, really good. We know that Mace Windu can be very effective, opting for the heightened perception to say, I'm always going to be able to shoot, as long as he has a force available. And from experience, I could say that Satine Corky can do a ton of work. If this list wants to, it can generally just say, I'm not going to take damage this round, or I'm going to get up on objectives this round. Because they can take objective actions or take repositions to get objectives and still get a ton of tokens to survive that round. Every ship in this list besides the Lat is 3 agility, which is a big deal for those token stacks that can be provided. And then Hound on top of that, just being able to eat the deplete from a Satine trigger from a ship to basically give him a free focus. And then Click can dedicate twice as long as Hound has Click in arc for a round as well. So there's a lot of small things in here that can add up to really mitigating the damage that can be incoming to a ship in your list.
I played Raviolo on Thursday, the day before flying out to Nova. We were both practicing. He was flying this, I was flying my Empire list.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was interesting when this list decides, like Ryan said, I choose not to take any damage this turn. He just doesn't take any damage that turn. It's just a choice they can make.
Yeah, they're pressing the pause button essentially on your firepower. So any list with Satine can excel in objective play, and you already have the Aether sprites, which are extremely good objective chassis, and then covering that also with Contrail, who is if you start some of the early engagements of stuff just going straight. If the opponent accepts the whole straight maneuver thing, like, well, Contrail's just going to say, all right, his abilities on, and I Satine some stuff. So.
All right, we're going to keep it moving here. Our other top 4 competitor, Lukas Kelly, is as close as I think that. I'm sorry, Lucas. But Marcel, go ahead. We have another Rebel list. Rebels again.
The Rebels with Lando in the YT 1300. He comes in at 8 points, so he's a little bit higher than 2 points higher than the Luke Wedge, but brings a lot of fun tools. Nia Num to make those banks blue. Perceptive co-pilot Biston. So essentially he can move, give himself a target lock and a double focus. So he's very modded in his offense, or he can pass off some of that to friendlies. Jake with elusive marksmanship, concussion missiles, and vectored cannon. Interesting one for me. But with vectored cannons, he can double reposition. I mean, he can't give himself a focus, can he? Anyway, there's probably something going on between him and Lando they're both ending up double modded. I'm quite sure. Aaron Kraken, fire control system, plasma torpedoes, and Magvayaro, little defensive tech with marksmanship, the child, tactical officer, contraband cybernetics, and then the pivot wing title. So 4-ship list hits 5 times a turn, up to 5 times a turn, and got a little bit of defensive tech with the Magva in there as well. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, another pilot that we really haven't seen. I mean, that's like Will's boy, right? It's like Jake just kind of fell off the earth.
Oh man, granularity hit him hard. He is no longer a cheap ship at 4 points.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that was your top 4 from the Italian World Qualifier. We're going to go ahead and jump over to the Nova Open Qualifier. We're going to sort this by top cut and do a little bit of moving things around. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit our top 8 for this one, my friends. Our top 8 for this one. So we'll start with Chris Patrick. Take it, Will.
Who? I don't know this person. Must be his first time up here at the top tables.
Christopher Crispy Patrick.
Oh, Crispy. Oh, I think I've heard his name in passing. Anyways,
so
let's take a look at the list.
Go for it.
Crispy running his classic here. Kylo Ren, First Order, in the Whisper, Instinctive Aim, Shattering Shot, Predator, Conch Missiles, Advanced Optics, Munitions, Failsafe, in the Enhanced Jamming Suite, Commander Malorus with Marksmanship, Cluster Missiles, Scorch with the usual here, Predator, Fanatical Optics. Then we get to the Chaffers. We got Dread with the Chaff Missile, Skilled Bombardier, Proxy Mines, Grudge with the same, plus Automated Targeting Priority and Elusive. So we've seen this played many times. And it still is catching people off guard. Mm-hmm. If you do not know about where these chaff missiles can be launched with the Pursuit Thrusters boost from the bomber, Pursuit Thrusters boost, and then with the Skilled Bombardier up to 5 template, that is catching you in definitely the range like 2 to 3 from your deployment, if not range 2 of your deployment. So the moment you leave your deployment range 1, you're in chaff zone. Mm-hmm. And it's between Kylo Ren and Scorch, if they line up those bullseyes, can just borderline set down 3 hits. Kylo as well with that the Shattering Shot. If you land on top of one of those clouds, you're probably going to eat a 4-hit attack from Kylo Ren as well. Again, if you have not played against this list, look up any videos of it because it will catch you off guard on how far those chaff missiles can be launched. And it can be absolutely devastating. what the goal of the list to do is to win the game round 2 and then spend the rest of the rounds getting objectives. I mean, John,
Making you sad. Making you sad.
Yeah, you get to clear stress, and now go get the objectives. Have fun with that. And that's not even getting to the proxy mines as well. Now you lost your actions, no perform action stuff because you went through a cloud, or landed on a cloud rather. And man, those grudge rerolls on the proxy mines, hitting like 2.75 damage on average with them. Super, super good. I mean, Dion, like I said, you played this quite a bit. What is your take on the list?
It's the bombers is what make the list. I'm gonna be honest. Like Scorch, Malorus, and Kylo, they hold up their end of the bargain by being able to help you clean up after the bombers.
Your offensive first,
right?
Kind of ships.
But the problem is if people approach this, well, I'm gonna go and take out the bombers first. The bombers want you to come at them, and if they land the chaff and you end up stressed, you become more predictable. And if they catch you on a board edge, you're done, because what they can end up doing is essentially covering both escapes, which if you watch the final and the top 4 game, Chris did the same thing to both opponents, and that is that there was versus a Ray Falcon that was on a board edge, caught him on turn 2 with the chaff, and on turn 3 covered both exits, and the Falcon could not escape. Like it was done. The game was, I don't want to say that the game was over at that point, but it was very much in Crispy's favor to win it after that because of the consistency of the proximity mines, and then you're taking away mods from other ships by taking away their locks or stressing them out, and it just makes it so that Scorch, Malorus can end up doing work against ships. And Malorus, with those cluster missiles, loves when Grudge and Dread chaff people because they're like, oh, look, you don't have any tokens. And if they clustered up, if they're close, Malorus is throwing 2-3 hits every time. That's very good. That's very good. So, we were joking earlier, Crispy is on a tear right now. He won Nova Open, this World Qualifier, which this is getting him his first his World Invite, and he won the trip, so he'll be able to have his travel covered coming from Florida. He won our last Galactic Qualifier at Oricon with a completely different list, mind you. He won the Sullust Galactic Qualifier. He won Kyber Cup. I think there was something else, some other online event that he did. And he made the top cut at Gen Con. That was the 5th one. All right. So, is a player that has risen to notoriety through online play, and is making his presence known in person too, saying, "Hey, I can play this game in both ways." Which again, I have been very adamant that, guys, it's while the game presents itself differently on the board, it's still X-Wing. It's still X-Wing. You got to have that right decision making to do well on both sides. All right, let's keep it going here. Christoph Katov Sote, hit it, Ryan. This was our runner-up for the event.
Yep, we have a resistance list, so we had a very thematic final with the resistance versus the First Order sequel battles. We have Rey, with I think somewhat of a standard loadout, I would say at this point. Running the Rose Finn combination, Rey's Falcon. Those are sort of the auto includes, I'd say, at this point. A lot of people opting in to Heroic right now for just what Rey can manipulate with Finn and Rey's ability with Heroic. opting for engine upgrade on this Ray versus some people opting in for some illicits. And then going for patience. I don't disagree with patience. I do think novice technician has a big play though. Crits on Ray can be devastating. But I see how Ray as well, with her ability, with Finn, dice manipulation, can still be beneficial for patience as well. We have Jarek Yeager with concussion missiles, overtune modulators, and targeting computer. Funny didn't even have the fireball title. I wonder if that's just a missed typo or entry, but
That's a typo. I played him in Swiss.
Yeah, he had it.
He had it. Okay. A lot of times we see Jarek with false transponder codes. I think you can go either way. You want the more modded shot, or do you want to jam something? I think with the pilot I'm going to mention next, I kind of like false transponder a little more because you could have Wilsa in the Y-Wing with L4ER5. Won't ever stop not talking about how good that droid is, and you should always take it on Wilsa when you can, because passing a calc at the start of engagement to a friend in your arcs with turret or front is very, very helpful to all of your ships. But also, Wilsa has dorsal thermal detonators, targeting computer engine upgrade. We have 2 more Y-Wings along the way with Shaza with elusive dorsal thermal detonators, targeting computer engine upgrade, and then Kai with elusive ion cannon turret, proton bomb, targeting computer engine upgrade. So not only one of them has ion cannon turret, the other 2 had dorsals, not a normal one we see, and also the elusive upgrades. We don't normally see those either on the Y-Wings.
So I will say this list seemed to catch a lot of people off guard. Those 3 Y-Wings in both of the games that we saw Christoph play, these Y-Wings did a ton of work. A ton of work. They would come in as a group of 3, and I know that they don't necessarily have any effects that help each other that have to be within range 1 or anything like that. But they come in together. They are unassuming. Oh, we just have 2 dice. Ignore us. It's fine. They get into range. All of a sudden, they're throwing range 1. Turret shots, they got the bombs out there, but I will say the thing that did lose Christoph the final was that, in my opinion, was after the Ray got caught, was the Y-Wing formation, because Malaris came in and was just like, guess what? You're all dead. Your 1 agility ships are all dead. Basically did it by herself, and it was quick. But obviously did really well with this variational list. And cool to see Jaeger out there. Normally we see Kaz, but Jarek Yeager made more than 1 appearance at the Nova Open. Somebody even had a 3D printed version of his ship. It was pretty neat. I would love to get that
TV show.
Yeah, from the TV show.
Well, the big reason, at least in this list, why we have Jarek is because Ray's more expensive than Poe by 1. So you can't have a 4-point ship in this list if you're doing all the 3 Y-Wings. You have to do another 3-point, and opted for Jarek. I do like Finn Pod though. Finn Pod is really annoying.
True. I think he was just going for that high initiative, zoomy ship that can go out and scramble things. I think that's an assault the satellite array. It's probably what he was going for.
But also, can't take Finn Pod when you got Finn Gunner on Ray. So
facts.
But what if I want all the Finns?
No, not allowed. Not allowed. All right, let's keep it going. Top 4 competitor was who, Marcel?
Duncan Howard.
Duncan, Marcel's nemesis, Howard. Continue.
He was flying Poe Dameron with outmaneuver, R4 astromech, perisphere, paint, overdrive. I think that's the spare parts, spare canister, and integrated S foils, Black One title, and jamming beam. Then he had Ray with heroic, Rose, Finn, engine upgrade, Ray's Millennium Falcon, but novice technician, different than Christoph's with the novice over the heroic. Is it over the heroic? No, it's novice over patience. Yeah. And then Covenant, Heroic, Jamming Beam, Leia Organa, R4, Astromech. Very similar list to the one that went 5-0 in Gen Con. Just a couple tweaks, but it's a proven commodity, and it's one that hits really hard. And I think it's one that wins similar to Crispy's list. It's one that wins by catching you unaware of what is able to happen. So you can forward and boost, which essentially means that Rey is going to get a shot at somebody turn one, whether you want to or not. The only way to avoid that shot essentially is to start with a hard turn and barrel roll towards the edge board, because a 1 forward will still be in range if you're following the rule of 11 to take a shot from a 4 forward boost and a large base. And it's going to be a double modded shot no matter what. And if you decided to go fast, then it's just going to be 4 dice with a target lock and force. Then, so that's something that catches people unaware. Another part that catches people unaware is basically in this particular list with Leia and with Rey's Millennium Falcon title is that Leia is essentially a defender. So the arc is always going to be pointed forward. So expect a lot of sloops, expect some K-turns, but expect the arc to always be pointed forward. And then the other thing that people may not be prepared for is Leia in most jousts will take maybe 1 shield out of 4 or 5 shots that are coming at her, because she is super tanky. So just very, I think that's what catches a lot of people unaware. I do think that this list tends to melt against people who faced it before and, oh, this is what you want to do, let me play against it, or let me play against your strengths and pick it apart. So I think this is your mileage may vary on this one. You have to be very good at it. Duncan obviously is very good, and I'm sure the person, I don't know who was at Gen Con, is very good, but also understand that it's one of those where, you know, you caught me once, you're likely not going to catch me twice type of
I don't want to let you do that to me again.
yeah. Once you know, like, oh, wait, you know, I'm not going to be able to, you know, have round one to do this or do that. And just also, disclaimer, Christoph and Duncan were my only 2 losses in the tournament. Me and Christoph have had both of our worst games ever, round 5 of Swiss. It was one of the most fun games, but we were both 4-0, made the cut. So we were just like playing whatever. Christoph did I've never seen anyone do this, is he accidentally bombed his Rey and 3 of his Y-Wings with 5 of his own bombs. 5 in 1 turn.
What?
Like he dropped 2 thermals and a proton, and I ended up getting the dice roll, moved ahead, bumped his entire formation, and he bombed, and he still beat me, by the way. So it's not like, you know, he still won, but still, it was just hilarious to see like him land 5 bombs on himself. So that was fun. But again, it's round 5. We're tired. We're both in the cut, so we're just giggling about, you know, in our stupor of like whatever it is that happens at round 5. Yeah, so very cool list, and always fun to play against Duncan. I think we're 4-2, so he's gotten the best of me most times, and he's gotten the best of me when it most matters, which is
In the cut.
the Worlds. No, because I've beaten him in the cup before too, but at Worlds, which is when it most matters, is because you know, it's one thing in the cuts, but he's beaten me at Worlds. I'm and in Worlds against him. So come back. In Adepticon, I got you, Duncan, because, you know, we bond to play each other. It's like we always do.
It is your destiny.
It is your destiny.
All right, and our other top 4 competitor was Jonathan Grasser. Take it, Will.
All right, Jonathan Grasser bringing the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader. This is Defender Vader with Malice, Juke, and Heavy Laser Cannon. Switching out from his previous Gen Con list where he had more than a key, has put in Captain Faroff with 7 Sister, and then has flown Iden with elusive ion cannon, following, I assume close by, with the Jingoist contraband cybernetics and Wampa with elusive. So here we see just 3 TIE fighters, Iden, Jingoist, Wampa, but then still that menace out there in Captain Faroth. So really kind of blending his previous list that was, I think, 2 Jingos, Morna, and Defender Darth Vader, then kind of mixing in with what we saw Nathan Ides' Gen Con list, which had Captain Faroth and X1 Vader. So, and then the mini TIE Swarm as well. So it's kind of, I like to see that kind of continuing evolution of these Imperial list of whether, you know, what's your combination of TIE fighters, what's your kind of tanky ship, and are you bringing Darth Vader or not? It seems to be still working for him. Darth Vader Defender, an absolute menace out there on the playmat.
Now, the only faction that we haven't talked about is, I think today, Separatists and Scum. We haven't talked about either of those, so I figured we just do a quick scroll here to see when was the first time we would see them in our rankings here. We did have a top 16 competitor that had a Separatist list. You want to go ahead and cover that, Ryan? This is George Barrios.
Yeah, so George brought probably the more familiar archetypes in Separatists right now, which is Django, Grievous, a Hyena, and 2 Vultures. For the specifics, we got our standard Grievous, Outmove, Impervium, Solus one. Django opting for Lone Wolf, Savage, Oppress, Thermal Detonators, False Transponder Codes, Delayed Fuses, Slave 1, and Veteran Tail Gunner. The Bombardment Drone with Prox Mines, Delayed Fuses, Landing Struts. And Separatist Drone with Discord, Grappling Strut, Independent Calc, and the same thing with DFS 081, the Discord's Independent Calc and Grappling Struts. So kind of a little bit hanging out that Hyena to dry in terms of, like, you just get your calcs, that's it. You don't even get 2 of them because you want to delay fuses, which can be money. There are times where you want to drop the bomb forward with the Hyena, but you know you have to move first. So you can drop it, delay it, move, and then someone else has to move on it now. This Django is one variation of Django I think that is worth considering whenever you're thinking about taking Djangos. It's opting to go with the cheaper Force crew to then say, I'm going to bring Lone Wolf instead of saying going with the more expensive Force crew and taking Notorious, which is obviously also a really good card to take. And actually works extremely well with Thermal Detonators, too. That can also deal out strain as well as just the damage.
Now, we did not get any Scum in our top cut, for anybody who was wondering. If we wanted to find Scum list, we'd have to go into Swiss. I know there was a couple of X and 2s that had Scum, but we will be releasing some videos on our YouTube channel here in a couple weeks when we get to the Nova Open videos, and you can watch them there. But, of course, Boba Fett is a very common ship that we saw out there for people who were trying to fly Scum. They just it wasn't their day. Every faction has their day, and Scum right now is a little bit on the struggle bus, and that is 1 week off of winning a major event. So there's a chance. There's a chance. So, friends,
Wait 1 second. So Turfanier did make his first cut of the year, or actually probably his first cut of 2.5.
He did.
So
He did. So I think that is Marcel Manzano queuing that he said, let's talk about my list a little bit. All right.
No,
So
we don't really need to talk about it much. I mean, it's very similar to what's his name, uh, Durant from France.
Nicholas Duran.
Nicholas Durant, yeah, which is basically Jingle Jingle Wampa, Aiden, Moff Gideon. The only difference is I went with Ruthless X1 and False Transponder Codes to Moff Gideon, mostly to counter the high token ships. If I were to face like I faced Crispy's list, and I was able to kill a triple. What do you call it? Basically, it was a list that had an evade and three forces, and I was able to kill it with 2 turns because just like you can get rid of all the tokens or all the mods with Moff Gideon, but also to counter the decimators. So the decimator list, either the single decimator or the double decimator list, being able to just shoot a false transponder code threat tracer, pop the reinforce off, and then just get into the juicy middle of the decimator in that first engagement. Yeah, they hate losing their reinforces, turns out.
Oh yeah.
And then I also went with Countdown and Turfinier instead of the Reapers. I think Countdown is the right call. I think the Countdown is probably one of the best calls in the Empire period, because Countdown can single-handedly joust one side of the board when the opponent sets up with like Vader on one side, Poe on one side, Rey on one side. Against Duncan, I set up my Countdown against Rey, and Rey, instead of coming in and 4-4 trying to kill me, he's like, nope, I'm gonna go play with the other people. I'm not gonna even bother with Countdown. I mean, he's just super annoying. And another benefit of Countdown is when he picks up crates, and if you land crits on him, he can say, nope, cancel all the crits, cancel everything. I'm just gonna take 1 stress and a damage. So basically allows you to be very loose with your actions, and you can still boost pre-maneuver boost with a crate. So it just allows them to be a really good crate carrier. And Turfinier with Snapshot. So Turfinier Snapshot, I went through, actually William helped me with building this list, so did Ali. And we were going through like all the different 4-point ships, and I decided Pierce Bach was the one probably I was highest on, but I decided on Turfinier because I needed somebody that likes to knife fight in the center. And I noticed that if I was flying a Reaper, I kept the Reaper outside of range 3 and a lot of the time outside of the fight, so the gun wasn't active. It was basically just a force flying around. And if I tried to be aggressive with one of those other ships, I would just create a self bump scenario where all my ships were running into each other. And Turfinier's ability actually is really great for flying a lot of ships, because I can shoot and then start positioning the ship to where I'm opening up lanes for where I want the rest of the TIE fighters to be next turn. So very good ship if you're flying, if it has a purpose, if it has a reason of being. If it doesn't have a reason for being, there's like 5 other 4-point ships that are way better than this one, but in this particular case, it just happened to be, for me, the best choice.
What was your coolest like Turfiner? After you perform an attack, you may perform a barrel roll boost, even if you are stressed moment. Like, what was, you got any cool, like, this chain of events?
I wish I did during the actual tournament. I think I only procced the snapshot ability 2 or 3 times the entire turn. However, people were purposely playing against it, so that anytime you can change the way that somebody else plays, there's a benefit to that. But most of my cool things happen in the lead up, like in the practicing and trying to fine tune the list of, like, against the boss, going in range 1, shooting first and then like barrel roll boosting out of the way so they can't shoot back and stuff like that. Like that's super fun. Or against an initiative 6, like wedge coming in at range 2 at just the right angle to where I'm going to snapshot and then I'm going to barrel roll boost to the left so that I'm out of harm's way no matter, he can't boost or barrel roll into my arc anymore. So those kind of things are really good, but they honestly only happen on Tabletop Simulator during the actual tournament. The ability came in super handy in engagement phase, again, setting up lanes. Actually, in the FO1 against Crispy's list, shooting and then repositioning to prevent the boost to drop a bomb, for example.
Oh, baller, yeah.
Yeah, so there was so it has tools, but it's very situational.
Cool, man. Well, it's cool to see we were talking a couple weeks ago about pilots or upgrades that we don't see very often and maybe finding some utility, and that's, you said you had one cooking, and there it is, Turfiner making an appearance. Very nice, very nice. So, my friends, we've had a bunch of premier level events happening. The meta is shaping up, and really, what I am seeing consistently, and I want you guys to correct me if I'm wrong, and also just add, is Empire seems to be consistently the most popular of factions. Now, that has been historically true most of the time. It just kind of has a pretty big following. But I think the temptation that Jingo Jingo Wampa and Vader Defender and the Decimators have, like, they have a lot of good stuff out there and combinations that you can make cool lists. So that's something you have to plan around. The Resistance is figuring out that their Y-Wings are good. I think that is something that is coming around. What are some other overarching things that you are seeing?
I would think, have we established that the Crispy's first order list is at minimum the top 3 of lists in the game, if not in contention to being the best list in the game that you have to consider going against in every event?
It is S tier. I'm willing to say that.
Yeah, it's one of those lists that just is takes can fight against any list. When I was doing rankings for XTC, I was flying in XTC, and I just kept going even. There's a way to win this game if the chaff clouds work, and I feel like that's something a lot of lists don't have. A lot of lists can't just look at their hard count and be like, I got a solution for that, actually.
I do think it helps that objectives and scenarios exist, because I think, and you guys on the XTC side of things, tell me otherwise if you have a different opinion on it, but I think salvage is its worst objective.
What do you mean by worst?
For
the Crispy's list?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, unless you can just chaff them so they can't pick them up, but they're probably going to pick up at least one. You're going to hope that the proxy mines do crits. I mean, I think name me a list that their best scenario is salvage mission.
TIE Swarm +1.
Republic is just a team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple lists that just the Republic list maybe, because the Jedi want to keep the Jedi, and maybe even the other ships want to keep their repositioning available. Mm-hmm. But TIE fighters don't barrel roll, so that's a really good one. You're talking about. The FO list being amongst the top 3, and then Dion said S tier. I think there's if you're planning for a tournament and there's net lists that are considered S tier that you want to plan for, you need to plan for that You need to plan for a variant of Duncan's Gen Con list. You need
Yep,
to plan.
I don't know
Blats
if that
in
has
Republic.
popularity enough though, because that's the other flip side
It
though.
does
is
have
that
popularity.
is that I don't think we saw success, but I don't think we saw numbers. There's a difference in what you're likely to face in
did.
Swiss. Because actually, right now, if I'm planning for an event, like yes, I should have a plan against Crispy's FO list. I actually don't think there's tech besides just bring passive mods if you have them. There's not like a thing that's like I can bring this thing that helps me against this. Like no, there's not really anything you just got to play the game. But I think you're more likely to fight those Empire lists than you are the FO list.
You are. You're going to see more Empire, but you were talking about like the S tier list that people will bring and will be successful with. I think that a variance of Duncan's list will bring, just join the XTC as an example, 8 out of 10 teams flew that list, or a variation of that's 8 of 10. We saw Fawn win with a variant of that list, the Dutch Nationals. Even though they didn't make it as far in Nova, almost every Republic list was a variation of Duncan's list, or at the very least had 3 of the 4 pieces from Duncan's list. So it's that I would put that up there. And then of course you got the Vader 5 TIE fighters is a staple, and then probably the double Desi. You have to be so there's I think the meta is in a pretty healthy state in terms of variety, because there's a large number of things that you need to be aware of. Even the Rebel Alpha Strike lists that are falling off, you might show up and play against one of those, and you need to be prepared to.
They're still popular enough, right?
Yeah, because people are still bringing them. They're losing with them, but they're bringing them. And if you end up playing one round 1 before they start not getting knocked down, you have to have an answer for that, because they will come and they will torpedo you at initiative 5 and 6. So I think the meta is in pretty healthy state. I think John Babcock and Matt Carey and Nick Tobin and I, and we're having like large discussions about what we like and what we don't like, and we could save that for another week. But as far as number of lists that are viable in a tournament, I think we're at one of the healthiest spots. Where we probably need a little help is that there's optimal builds for ships that is making it kind of like a standard loadout. The Ray, you have a standard loadout for Ray. There is an optimal Ray. You have a standard loadout for Kylo. You have a standard loadout for Grudge. Things like that. So there's very little variety between the ships to where you're choosing. But as far as list archetypes, factions that you can fly, right now is an awesome time to experiment and try different things that can be successful.
Yeah, we've been talking like honestly smack against some of these factions, but they continue to crop up and get in these final cuts. I think most of us wrote off Scum, especially Cad Bane and the Mandalorian, two brand new ships for that faction. But we've seen people find success with them. Same thing with like Resistance. We kind of count them off. We're like, well, the Y-Wings are good, but like they're not winning, right? Because they lose to these other kind of archetypes. But now that you have that kind of dilution where you aren't facing Darth Vader or Wedge in every matchup, that kind of creates this opportunity for these to kind of float to the surface. Though, I mean, can we talk about just like why Rebels and CIS just fell off? Like CAD and the Vultures just non-existent anymore, or at least in the higher end of it. Are people just choosing to fly these less because they're not being as successful with them? They're kind of jumping ship, or what do you think causes that kind of play to switch to a different faction?
So I think one thing to know: Separatists has always been a lesser popular faction in the first place. The only times where it's been extremely popular, it's when they could be scum adjacent with fire sprays, which Django still performs in general really, really well by the numbers as a pilot by himself. It's just what you want to put around him right now. And when some of the best pieces to put around him are I4 pieces with barring really good abilities, like Grievous is still really hard to kill. It is a great ability. Synergizes really well with the loadout he takes. But he's also an I4, and a lot of things right now are higher than that. And Cad Bane has also amazing ability, but generally doesn't have the loadout to bring a ton of punch unless he gets the bullseye if you bring HLC or land some bombs. A lot of people like the idea of using his ability in prox mining. And it's just what combination of things do you want? Or do you want less of those feature name pieces and bring droids? Like we saw with George, who brought it to Nova, opted for the hyena and 2 vultures. So it's already an unpopular faction. It may have the feeling of, I think other factions do things better that are trying to do similar things. I don't really see the Separatist type list excelling in anything more than anything that any other faction or list can bring. Like, they're not like overly winning certain scenarios, as an example. Like they have ways to win games across the board, but they're like a jack of all trades type feel. Like they have things that can work, but they're not overbearingly winning in any category.
Right. Okay. So kind of our opinion of Scum there for a long time was like Scum can do things. Scum has good pieces, but like getting anything coherent out of them was always, other than spamming fire sprays, was always pulling teeth.
Yeah, if you do Django, Grievous, Cad Bane, that's 18 points. Leaves you enough space for a one of the
The Vulture,
two-pointers,
like the DFS 081, yeah.
For just comparison, you get Boba, Manaru, and Kanan for the same price in the Scum. It's just like the difference is pretty drastic. Or you can even drop it down to like Crispy had Boba, Manaru. He didn't have Boba, he had the other one, but you can drop it down to like you can have Boba, Manaru, Gamut, 17 and still have room for a 3-pointer, and there's plenty of not amazing, but there's plenty of 3-point ships out there. It's just what the CIS does, there's other ships that do it better. And if you want to spam a bunch of ships like they used to, like, I'm going to throw about 8 ships out there with Captain Sear to crack shot and do all this fun stuff with 8 ships and cracking and keep all these calculates. I introduced you to 7 ships in the Empire, flying with 3 agility on all of them. Or maybe 6 of them, and Palpatine throwing a force out there. So who needs to be at range 1 to get that calculate?
We're just 5 TIE fighters and Defender Vader. You can do something similar with Django. You can take Django and 6 vultures, but I feel a whole lot better with Vader Defender and 5 TIE fighters.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, sure, the vultures can get some toys with energy shell charges or Discord missiles, and Django's ability can sometimes make Vader Defender not too happy, but at the same time, Vader Defender is hitting still extremely hard into anything. So, yeah, right now the Separatists aren't the best swarm faction, and they're also not the best 4 or 3 ship list faction either. So anything in the middle is like trying to put the pieces together. Like, we saw it work well in prior GSP events, right, Dion? Like, we had a final where it was 2 separatist lists. We had a final where it was a separatist list and something else that won. So they've made it before, but they've seemingly been hopped over by other lists. I think the emergence of Resistance providing that one of the more optimal 5-ship loadout type lists where you just say, I'm going to pick my anchor piece. Is it Ray or is it Poe? If it's Ray, fill out rest of it all threes, right? Do all your 3 Y-Wings, and then do Jarek or whatever. Or is it Poe? Like, okay, do 3 Y-Wings, and then what 4-pointer do you want? Do you want Kaz? Do you want Lega and another Y-Wing, and then swap out one of the 3-point Y-Wings to take either Jarek or Finn? I don't know. There's a lot of combinations. A lot of them are working. So it's hard to compete those Y-Wings where you have those that bring bombs. And actually, I think a lot of people underrate this. While the regular shot for the Y-Wings aren't great against, say, Vaders, the times I've seen Defender Vader get taken down is when he gets ioned. And those Y-Wings ion really good.
Oh, yeah. Because it becomes predictable, so you're getting consistent shots, which is what it's about. Those consistent shots.
Even if you don't kill Defender Vader, telling him he's ioned for like X amount of turns, because you have this one Y-Wing that just starts orbiting him and keeps ioning him over and over because he only has a focus result on defense.
Yep.
Sorry, bud. You get to stop having fun. Stop murdering my ships, please.
Yep. You do what you gotta do to make sure that you can make it work. Well, we have a lot to think about here. As the meta continues to develop, there are more galactic qualifiers on the horizon. In 2 weeks, we will have the Korriban qualifier. It's happening during the Eastern European time zone. So if you want to get your ticket for that, you can go to goldsquadronpodcast.com. We also have Crate Cup coming up as well. So wait a second. No, Crate Cup's in 2 weeks. Korriban is next week. There you go. Sort that out there. Just excited to bring you guys more X-Wing, and we are still trying to figure out what we're gonna get done for the Golden Gate, the California World Qualifier, for coverage there, because we staff issues, and I can't be there because baby. So we'll figure something out. But I know what I want to talk about next week, and I kind of want to put this in my friends here, their ears, but also your guy, the audience, is there. What I am noticing consistently after watching all these games and casting these games is that I think one thing we need to do better as players, or needs to be done better as players, is the identification of how to play the objective versus with your list, and being able to identify how your opponent should be playing whatever objective you're playing. Because I feel like we're still learning. There are still people who don't even know the objectives, which tells you that there is still a lot of growth to happen in X-Wing strategy. And even though we have only these 4 objectives, there still is a lot of depth there as things continue to change and evolve. So that's it for
things.
Go ahead.
I think one piece of advice I can give to people who are trying to form something around getting to know these objectives is find 10 points of your opponent's list that you think you can kill across the board. Because someone had done some research many months back, maybe even before the recent change, but either way, most game results were ending with around average half kill points, half objective points. Okay, if you locate those 10 points of kill that you can do and do objectives to fill the rest of it in, usually a good average starting point. So you've already helped figure out your kill win condition, and you can start to develop how you get the other 10 points of objective. Don't try and think you gotta do everything objective or everything kill. It's not how you're gonna win the games.
Yeah, that I've utilized the same strategy because it's basically the only strategy I have every time I face Darth Vader Defender. I was like, well, we're gonna need 9 objective points. Let's start there, and then figure out what else, how else the battle proceeds.
Ah, what a wimp! You gotta kill Vader. Come on.
If I eye on him, I will kill him. If I don't eye on him, I'm not gonna kill him.
No, you gotta put a person at range, a ship at range 1, and have Moff Gideon at range 3. That Vader.
Sounds like I'm already playing Vader in that list though, because it's Imperial.
Maybe. Well, that's it for today, everybody. I want to say thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you guys Wednesday for Gold Squadron Flight Club, and no content this weekend because it's my birthday weekend, and I'm going to have some cake and open some presents that my daughter nearly spoiled. Like, she came this close. Like, she was talking about stuff, and she literally, like, slapped her hands on her face. And I was like, what's wrong? And she goes, nothing. It just, like, walks away. It is really cute. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Be smart. Be safe. Gold Squadron out.